Hi, it's Kathy from Bishopstone Yarns. I'd like to welcome everyone here to this episode. This is a sit and spin episode of my podcast. As I was saying, I'm Kathy and this is the Bishopstone Yarns podcast. Today I'm doing a spinning podcast, and as you can see, I'm sitting here in the corner of my studio surrounded by my wool. And for those people who are returning viewers, hi, it's great to see you again. So happy that you have come back to join me for a bit of crafting. I hope you enjoy your time here. And for those new viewers, welcome. It's great to see you as well. And I also hope you enjoy your little bit of time here in my studio with me. And I hope everyone has some sort of crafting they might like to sit down and do while I'm just chatting and talking about my spinning here. For those people who are new viewers, what I usually do is one week I do like a more knitting-based, knitting and sewing kind of based podcast, and then the other week I do more of a spinning podcast, which is what this week is. So this is a sit and spin kind of podcast. Now, coming to you from the corner of my studio here from Tasmania, which is the little island to the south of Australia. And and today is Monday the 30th of May, and it's a really lovely day outside. It's a lovely blue sky, really, really lovely, gorgeous sky, but quite cold. We've had a bit of a snap of cold weather, and I think the next 3 or 4 days are going to be quite cool here. So winter is on its way. For all those people in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you're enjoying the weather warming up and all that comes with that, like all the kind of new life in the garden and everything. Mind you, I must admit, even though we're heading into winter, some of my bulbs have already started to come up. Some of my daffodils, my nerines are already kind of coming out, and my belladonnas, none of the flowers are out, but just like they're starting to sprout. I'm not sure that the bulbs really know what they're doing at the moment. I think they're a little bit confused about the weather as well. But it does make it, as it gets colder, it does make it great sweater weather, so that's good. So where you can find me on the internet, you can find me on Instagram as Bishopstone Yarns. You can find me on Facebook as Bishopstone Yarns, and the best way to find me there is going through, when you're already on Facebook, Google me through that way. Don't search me through that way. Don't Google me on the internet and then go onto the Facebook page, because that one is not me. That I don't know where that one has come from, but there's that's not me. So don't go onto that Facebook page. And I'm also on Ravelry, for those of you who are on Ravelry, and you can find me on Ravelry as Bishopstone. And there's also a group I've started on Ravelry called Bishopstone Yarns Podcast, for anyone who's interested in going over there and having a bit of a chat or putting up some photos. That would be great. And I also have a blog which I haven't used. I don't really use very much anymore. I used to use it quite a bit. I had 2 blogs. I had Bishopstone Yarns and then I had Bishopstone, so the Bishopstone one was more of just a personal one and a bit more of a family-based kind of personal one, and then the other one was just a Bishopstone Yarns one. But I might get back into using the blog posts. I was thinking about the other day when I could put up some photos, more photos of things, and maybe do a bit more of an explanation for those people who are interested, and especially like when it comes to my sewing and stuff, I could put more photos up. But we'll see if I have enough time, or if there seems to be any interest in that. So I think I will start off with telling you what I'm wearing. and this will lead into my spinning, don't worry. So for those people who have seen this podcast before, you'll have seen me in this jumper before. This is my Jennifer Steingas sea change. And as those people who've already seen it will already know, brown isn't really my colour. It's not necessarily something that I wear very often. But this wool had been my mother's, and so I decided to use it to make a jumper. And actually, I don't mind. I mean, I think I can wear the brown, but it's just not a colour that I would automatically go and choose. So that leads me into the fact that I've got all this fleece here around me, and it is brown. Brown and white, but brown. So I have this fleece here, which is the Tasmanian Morat fleece, which I was talking about previously. If you want to have a little bit more, if you want to know a bit more about Tasmanian Morat, where it came from and how this colourway was created, then I think it may have been my last sit and spin, I think, where I talked about that. So you can go back and look at that. So this is a colourway that was designed by a Tasmanian lady who, when she died, the part of her flock went to a lady who lives not too far away from me, who then went on to breed up this colourway of sheep. But yes, like I was saying, if you want to find out more about that, go back and check out my, I think it was my previous sit and spin episode where I go back into it. So I have this fleece here. So the entire fleece was 1.25 kilos, which is more than I will need for a jumper. A lot more than I will need for a jumper. But I want to get through it and I want to use it, even though brown is really not my colourway. So at the same time as having that brown fleece, I also have, and I'm sorry for the rustling, but I also have this big huge bag here full of alpaca, which is this white alpaca here, which is a lovely fleece, which I also got from a lady called Jillian, who has Valda's Way, which has the Tasmanian Morat. So this is a lovely, soft, glorious alpaca. It's very clean, so I don't need to do a lot of work to it, which is always a bonus. So I had these two fleeces, and I had decided that I want to make the Birkin by Caitlin Hunter. The Birkin is a jumper which has, it's a yoked kind of design. And the design that I really would have liked to make was the one that she has two kind of variations of the jumper. One has like a white or a very light body and a multicoloured yoke. The other one has a darker body and just like a one colour light yoke. And the one that I really wanted to make was the lighter coloured body with a coloured yoke. But then I had these two fleeces that I want to use up as well. So I had spent quite a bit of time thinking about what and how I'm going to do this. So I had carded up quite a bit of, so this is one bat from my drum carder of the wool, the Tasmanian Morat wool. Now this wool is absolutely gorgeous. It's so soft and beautiful, and it still has a lovely sheepy smell, so it still has some lanolin in it, but it's just absolutely gorgeous kind of fleece, but of course not in my colour. Then if I can manage to pick this one up. So here is a bat that I did of the alpaca. So then I decided what I was going to do is I want to combine the wool and the alpaca together to then spin up to make the yarn for the Birkin. I did go online and I watched a fantastic video by Jillian Eve, who does a whole heap of spinning podcasts. And so she had one video in particular where she was looking at different ratios of alpaca and wool. And so it was all to do with the fact that there's a difference between the properties of wool and alpaca. And a lot of people will say they don't like to have 100% alpaca garments because they tend to drop and they don't keep their shape particularly well. Other people will say it's absolutely fine, they don't have a problem with it. I personally prefer not to spin 100% alpaca and make a jumper in 100% alpaca, because I have found in the past that mine have dropped, which I don't really like. I don't like when you make a jumper, you make it to fit you, and then it's a real shame over time if it kind of tends to drop and drape too much. So I knew I didn't want 100% alpaca, and so because I had the wool and the alpaca, I wanted to do a blend. So Jillian Eve went through, and I think she did alpaca with 10% wool, alpaca with 20% wool, alpaca with 30% wool, and I think alpaca with 50% wool. Out of all of those, watching the video, which I highly recommend you going to watch her video, the one that I kind of liked the most was more of the 50-50 alpaca and wool kind of blend. So that was what I thought I would kind of aim for. Now, in the video, Jillian Eve had actually weighed everything out and done it, so it was exactly 50%. I decided that I wasn't going to do that because, well, I guess I just wanted to get going, and I wasn't interested in doing a specific kind of 50%. If this was something I was doing to sell, or then I would kind of weigh them out and see what was happening. But I just thought I'll just eyeball it. So that's what I started doing. So this is the first batch that I did, where I carded both the wool and the alpaca together. So all that I did with this was I took one bat of the wool and one bat of the alpaca and basically just broke them both in half. So I ended up with half each, and then I just put half of the wool together with half of the alpaca bat and then carded them together. Now this one has gone through the drum carder, I think about 3 or 4 times, maybe 4 times. And I quite like the look of it. I quite like, I would have liked it to be slightly lighter, but I didn't want to add more alpaca to it just to make it a lighter shade, because I didn't want more alpaca mixed in with my yarn. I was hoping, I'll just show you the wool. So this is the wool one here next to it. I don't think there's a great deal of difference in terms of the colour. It is slightly lighter, but not a huge amount. But that's okay. I'm not going to add more alpaca to this because then it's going to lose more of its wool properties, which is what I really want. So if you kind of imagine that's kind of the colour at the moment of the body. I have done a few more. I've done 3 all up. Now this one only went through, this one here had gone through one more time than this one. You can see there are still some patches where it seems to be a little bit whiter. Well, this one is probably a good example. You can see there are still some white parts there. But I'm not particularly concerned about that at this point in time. I thought what I might do is, since I'm at this point, I've still got a lot of these bats here, and I still have a lot of the fleeces left. And I thought I would just try. I will just start here with this bat and spin it up, ply it up, and then see what it looks like at the end. Because as we all know, when it comes to spinning a bat, and especially when there are some different colours or colour variations in it, when we actually get to the end and we've had it as a plied yarn, it can look totally different. And the colourways, the colour can be, you can be surprised by the change in colour from a bat to the actual yarn. So I thought that's what I'll do. I'll spin it up, I will ply it up, and then I'll have a look at it and I'll decide whether or not I think, I mean, my initial thought was I wanted to do some dye. Well, I have to dye the colours for the yoke, and the body, I wouldn't mind putting a very light dye over this and seeing what it looks like, just to take the brown away from it. So maybe, I don't know, I mean, I really like blue, or a really light green, or a really light pinky colour. I'm not quite sure, but maybe a really light green could be quite nice. But just something to take the brown tone away. So it just gives it a little bit of colour, just so I feel like I'm not making myself another brown jumper. I mean, the other option is I just go for a darker, the darker version of the Birkin, where I use this and dye it and make a darker colour and go for the lighter yoke. But I can't really make that decision, I think, until I have actually started spinning this up and look at the finished yarn and see what I think. So I think that's what I might do. I might start just start spinning some up and see how we go. Oh gosh, I have to put an apron on because I'm going to end up with I will have bits of fibre everywhere, and it's probably not really what I want at the moment. I don't want lots and lots of fibre floating around all over me. Oh, every time I turn around there's another bit of fibre on, little bits everywhere. Now, I was just going to say, got to look at my little notes here. I have had some absolutely lovely comments from some of our viewers, and I was just going to mention that Alana and Susan were both saying that they liked this blend, the colour of the lighter blend, and so I hope you like how it's looking, and we'll see how it turns out. And also Amanda was saying that she likes to put alpaca and fin together, which I kind of think that would be an absolutely lovely mix, alpaca and fin. Fin is a really nice fleece, and even so much so that I was thinking, actually I don't have a fin fleece, maybe I should go looking for a fin fleece. But then I thought, look, I've got enough fleeces here. I was actually in the shed the other day and I realized I think I've got 7 fleeces in there, which have all come the last couple of years from our pet sheep when we were at our previous place where we had our sheep. And I'm thinking, I'll have to get those fleeces down. And then I thought, gosh, I'm just trying to get through 2 fleeces here at the moment. I've got another 7 in the shed. Yes. Anyway, I don't, even though I'd love to have a fin, maybe when I get down to only a couple of fleeces, then maybe I can look at getting a fin or something like that, or one might pop up in my vicinity that's at a good price, then maybe I'll buy it. But yes, no, but I like Amanda's idea of the alpaca and the fin together. That sounds really good. And then the other thing we can talk about, oh, no, I'll talk about that on the next podcast. It was another lady who gave me a suggestion for buying some rings for my to hold my threads on, that I could pick those up at the reject shop. So I should really, I still have to go and have a look and see if I can find those. But thank you everyone for your comments. I really appreciate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this back, just kind of divide it in two. And I think I sound like a parent when I'll just say, you know, I mean, everything I do here is, this is just the way I do things. It's not the right way or the wrong way. It's just the way I do it. And I have been spinning for a really long time. And sometimes I do things just because it's quicker and I just want to get into a project. It's not the way that if I was talking to a new spinner or someone who was starting off, I wouldn't necessarily be telling someone that the way that I was doing it was the way that they should do it, especially when it comes to fibre preparation is really, really important. And it's one of the things that makes spinning so much easier if you have a well prepared fleece. But quite often I will spin straight from the fleece. If it's one that I feel that I can spin straight from the bag, I will go ahead and spin it from the bag, because it cuts out that whole process of preparation. But I can only say that because I've been spinning for a long time and I can do that. I know that when I first started spinning, I spent a lot of time taking each lock out and hand carding or flicking each lock and making sure I had everything nice and easy to spin, so it was all nice and open. The fibres were nice and open. They're all lying the same way. It just made spinning so much easier for me, especially when I was starting out. And even just the washing beforehand of the fleece, whereas and having had our own sheep as well, I've spent many hours washing, preparing fleeces, that now I've got to a point where I've kind of thought, it eats into my spinning time, into my knitting time, and I would prefer not to spend all that time preparing fleeces and going through and doing that. I will either get a fleece that I can spin straight from the bag, or one that has a minimum amount of work needed to do to it. Both the fleeces I've got at the moment are very clean and can go through the drum carder without having to be washed first or a great deal of preparation done to them. I haven't really had to throw a great deal out, but say I've just got, this is about kind of roundabout how much I've had thrown out from the drum carder, so that's not a lot of waste considering how much I've already carded for them. Yes, so I guess it's a bit of a just because I do it this way, I'm not saying this is the right way or the only way, because with spinning there are so many different ways to prepare fleece. There are so many different ways to card fleece. A lot of people, there are different types of hand carders, different ways of using hand carders, and there are different traditions, and a lot of those have come from different areas in the world. Different types of sheep and different types of sheep wool needs different types of preparation. So over generations, traditions have created around how people have prepared fleeces because it suits the type of wool that they have been using. So it means that there are a lot of different ways that we can do things, and I always think, especially if you're starting out, one of the best things is to try a whole heap of different say preparation or different types of spinning, And then you'll just come to a point where you'll go, oh, this works well for me, and I enjoy this type of preparation or this type of spinning. And I always think, if you end up with a yarn at the end that you're happy with and you can use, then that's all that matters. How you arrive there really doesn't matter. As long as you're enjoying yourself along the way, you find what works for you and go with it. You know, just because someone else does it differently or someone else thinks you should be doing it differently doesn't mean you have to. You know, that's the whole enjoyment of spinning and creating your own yarn as well, is the fact that you do it the way that you find works for you, and you do it the way that you find gives you the yarn that you want at the end. And that's it. So this is the way I do it. I could strip this back into even smaller amounts. I could pre-draft it and do things like that. But like I think I was saying before, I just like to be at a point where I have a yarn. I just want to get to the point where I can have the yarn and use it. And this is just for myself. So it's not as if I'm wanting to sell this or put it in a show or have it examined by someone else. So I will just do what I'm happy with to create the yarn that I want, and hopefully have the yarn that will work really well for the Birkin. So I think from memory I am, and I should be definite about this, shouldn't I? But I'm pretty sure that the Birkin is calling for a 5-ply, or around about a 5-ply, which luckily is kind of my default yarn. I will be interesting as well when we get, not only will I have a nice little look at the colour that of this yarn at the end, but it'll be interesting as well to have a little look at, hopefully it'll come out on the right kind of yarn sizing for the project, and I won't have to tweak around too much with my gauge when I'm knitting, and because that would just make it so much easier if I didn't have to worry about trying to change gauge just because the yarn that I've made is not quite, well, if it's too thin, put it that way, then I'll have to change my gauge. But he is hoping that it will be okay. The other thing I will be wondering about is, I think I will ply this on my major craft. For those people who saw the last sit and spin episode, I had plied some wool on my e-spinner, and because I'm very new to using the e-spinner, I haven't got the tension right on the e-spinner, and I wasn't particularly happy with the twist on my plied yarn on the e-spinner. I know that on the major craft, because I've been using it for so many years, I know exactly the type of yarn that I'm going to get, and I know that my tension and my twist will be okay. So I might just stick to the, I mean, I might change my mind. It's only because the e-spinner will give me closer to a 200 gram skein, as opposed to, I think this one gives me well, not necessarily half, but I can't remember, but it's not as big. The skein is not as big, so it just means that I would need to change skeins, or kind of add skeins more often when using the major craft, because you can't fit as much plied yarn onto the bobbin as you can onto the e-spinner bobbin. And I had looked into getting a jumbo bobbin for the Major Craft, but then I decided for the price, yeah, it probably wasn't worth my while, because eventually I will practice on the e-spinner, and then it won't be a problem. So then I can just use the e-spinner for my flying. So just going to have a little look here. I don't know, it's very hard. I can't really, I'm not sure that I can actually show you. Oh, maybe against the dark. There we go. So is that going to show up a little bit? At the moment, it's just looking like a light, kind of a light, I don't know what you'd say, a light brown colour. Actually, I mean, if it stayed a nice light brown colour, maybe it would be light enough. It could be light enough to use just as the main part of the body. And then with some, if I did that, and because it's got a little bit of colour in it, then I could put more colour into, like a stronger colours into the yoke for the contrast, because that would be the important thing, is to get that good contrast in the yoke, which I've talked about before, where I when I made my son his purple jumper, and the body was in a light purple and the yoke colour was in a dark purple, and actually it was this same design as this one, but the design did not show up. One of the reasons was, well, one was because I hadn't spun that. I had used yarn, hand spun yarn that was in my stash, and it wasn't a yarn that I had spun specifically to use in colour work. And the other reason was the contrast between the two colours in his jumper, I don't think was strong enough to show off the pattern as well as it could have. Like, the pattern kind of gets lost a bit because I think the purples are too close in colour. Whereas with this one, you can see the pattern quite easily because there's such a great contrast. So if I was to use this colour as the main body without dyeing it, yes, the colours in the yoke, I could go a darker colours, like darker greens and blues and reds for the yoke colour, so just to make sure that the actual pattern stands out a lot more. That might be an idea. Oh, so many things to think about, but I still have to spin all of this up. I have to finish carding all this, and then I have to finish spinning it all up, which might be a project for the rest of today. Well, not as if I'm going to spin it all up today, but I mean, at least get started on some of the spinning. I've got these three bats here, three mixed bats here that I could go ahead and card, well, that have been carded that I can spin up today. That might be a good idea. And then I can move around to the other end of the house where it's nice and sunny. The sun doesn't come around here into my studio until late afternoon, so maybe I could move into the other area and enjoy a bit of the sunshine while I'm here. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. I hope you've been able to take a little bit of time out and do some crafting, spend a little bit of time for yourself, and have a little relax while you're here with me and my wool. Hopefully next time I see you, this will all be spun up and we'll have some yarn to look at, and I can do a bit more carding, a bit more spinning, and then maybe have made a decision about what I'm going to do with dyeing or not dyeing the yarn that comes out of this. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me. If you've liked the video, please give me the thumbs up and press the like button, and if you're not subscribed, it'd be fantastic if you could subscribe, because it helps me out here in this little bit of the YouTube world, and yeah, helps other people find me as well. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.